Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Autumn here. I'm out here working with Sky. I just want to kind of talk about what's happening in this video, and I wanted to do it separately so I can focus on what's happening. So right here, we're going to start with some recalls. When she's off leash, it's important that when we call her, we make sure we have space between our commands. So we're saying, Sky, come. We're making sure we have an actual pause and break. So that's exactly what I just did there. She's coming on back. And she's completely off leash here. So then we're going to move on into the place bed. And she made a mistake there, and that's no big deal. I let her know that she made a mistake, and I asked her to come on back. She got a little confused. She laid down, and then I showed her with my body language, hey, this is what I meant. I pointed to the place bed, and then she fixed herself. And then she continues on being a really good girl, and she continues on being like, oh, my bad, I'm sorry. That was a mistake. She understands what I'm asking of her, which is to stay on the place bed until I release you. Now I want to talk about our two marker words, okay and yes. Okay lets her know she's done with her mission, and yes lets her know that she's done the right thing that you've asked of her and food's coming. Okay, and now we're going to move on into sit. So sitting and staying was something really important for her. So when she sits and stays, we're going to continue to tell her like, hey, that's a good girl periodically as we move around her and as we make distance. It gets harder and harder for the dog to stay as we go further and further away. So it's important periodically here and there we tell her that she's a good girl. And same thing here. Whenever I'm ready for her to be done with her sit, I go ahead and release her with okay. Again, okay is your release word, and it lets her know that she has finished the mission. She's done with the command that you issued. So I just did an okay there, and she wanted to make sure. And I used my body language. As you can see, I kind of got a little bit more like, yeah, you're free to go. And she went ahead and was like, oh, okay, cool. And she came on over. Nice. And so then we go into the down. So the down is, again, the exact same as the sit. There is an implied stay. So when you tell her down, she has to stay in her down until you say okay, which again is the release word. Now, if she is in her down and she decides to get up on her own, at that point, you will hit your e-collar button and say, down, to remind her, hey, that was wrong. You have to return to what is right, which is down. And then once she returns to being a down dog, then you can praise her up and tell her that was the right choice, good job. But it's important that when she does break, you give her some guidance, a correction there to be like, hey, go back to what's positive, and then she can clearly understand. So right here I'm doing another little sit, and she's doing awesome with that. Now we're going into the heeling. So heeling off leash is kind of an art. They're not going to be as tight as they are on leash, but you can still hold them accountable and responsible. So every time she leaves me, I'm going to hit my button and I'm going to tell her heel and have her come with me. She's doing a good job. And then we just go back into practicing some recalls here. So Blair was outside distracting her for me. And every time she left me, I went ahead and called her. And there was no relapse in her judgment. As soon as she heard me call her, she would turn around and come back to me. So that's looking really good. If you have any questions about anything you saw in this video, please feel free to ask. She's doing really awesome. And we'll see you guys in the next one.